business, consider the ratification of our 2017-2018 negotiation agreement, association agreement.
Do you want a motion? Or?
Please.
I move that we approve the 2017-2018 negotiated agreement as presented.
Second. Moved by Laura, second by Mark to approve the 2017-2018 negotiated agreement. Further discussion? All in favor of that motion, raise your hand. Opposed? Same sign. You got some extra hands ready. Motion passes. Would like to take some time just to thank Laura, Mark, KJ, Mr. Hogan, the other side. Please stand up.
Oh, we're all on the same side.
We're all on the same side.
We're all on the same side.
Well, I know you guys spend evenings and all day Saturdays. The rest of us were out fishing or doing something. So we appreciate your time and dedication.
Mr. White is here. One of the
Great.
was on the team as well.
Thank you for all your work.
For a matter of record,
Yeah, it
how
would be.
did the vote go again? It was almost unanimous, but like something that was only like
366. 366.
That's great. Good work, guys.
Any extra comments from people out raising their hands?
No, I just appreciate that the district came in and gave them their time as well. I heard that well on that too.
I know I had a couple teachers comment to me, they appreciated the extra time, or were there different locations to go vote, for sure.
Yeah, there were two different
opportunities.
It's nice as it goes under teacher now to do these.
Further comments? Motion passes. Thank you. Again. Next item on under new business is our Garden City High School proposal for boys swimming. This is a discussion only item. Tom?
I think you guys all copy this, just so you have it. Take one with you. This Clifford really needs some reading material tonight.
I do.
Sure.
You guys like coming? Keith, you good? So what I'm here to talk to you about today is the possible expansion of Garden City Athletics into boys swimming. Just a little background on boys swimming. We actually used to have boys swimming a long time ago. I shouldn't say a long time ago. Back in 1985, we started boys swimming. And when we had boys swimming, we were actually very successful. We have one of the top swimmers in the history of the state, actually from Garden City. Brian, he won 2 gold medals in his first year. Brian Peterson, he actually has a class reunion coming up this year. But in his first year, he won 2 gold medals. By the time he was done swimming, he had 7. He's one of the most decorated swimmers that we've had in the state of Kansas. In the second year of our program, we actually got 2nd in the state of Kansas in boys swimming. Boys swimming eventually transformed into co-ed swimming, where we integrated some girls into swimming. And what eventually happened was girls actually ended up taking over the program of swimming, and we transitioned that into the springtime. In 1991, it went to all girls swimming. We tried in the 2000s to bring swimming back as a boys sport, unsuccessfully. I believe the board voted it down the one time. It was either voted down by board or voted down in supplementals and denied. So we actually did try bringing it back in the middle 2000s. Why we want to add swimming, one of the big things that we pride ourselves on at Garden City High School is we do things that others don't do. The problem is we're lacking in this area. We're one of the only schools in the state of Kansas in 6A without swimming. There's 30 swimming teams, boys swimming teams in 6A, and there's only 32 teams. Us and one other team are the only 2 teams in 6A without it. We currently offer almost every single activity, whether it's orchestra, football, forensics. The only 2 that we don't offer are boys swimming and gymnastics. Gymnastics is often talked about getting cut from Keisha because currently there are only 13 Keisha schools doing gymnastics, and of those 13, 9 of them are in Kansas City. So not very many schools do gymnastics. Boys swimming, however, is very, very popular. In the WAC, we're also the only school that does not have boys swimming in the WAC. Every other school has boys swimming. Liberal and Dodge City added boys swimming last year. And Great Bend predominantly has been the #1 school as far as boys swimming goes. Interestingly enough, there's only been 2 teams in the history of the WAC to win a swimming title, whether it's boys or girls, Garden City and Great Bend. And we're obviously can't win boys swimming because we don't have it anymore. So the interest in swimming, how this got started, we've had a number of boys come to us asking about starting a boys swimming program. And our girls swimming coach, Coach Ming, she's been pretty instrumental in this. She really wants to help grow swimming in Garden City. She does a great job with youth swimming, helping out with that. And she wants to be able to transition to the high school level. Currently what's happening is we have a ton of youth swimmers. Our youth swimming in Garden City kind of took a dive in the late 2000s, and what we've seen is a resurgence in youth swimming here in Garden City, and a large part of that is due to Blue Tide, Finney County Blue Tide, with Brian Watkins, and they've seen a huge surge in their membership at Blue Tide, and because of that, what we've seen is we've seen very successful young swimmers coming up through the ranks and eventually getting to us at the high school level. The problem we run into is those boys swimmers just stop swimming completely. They don't swim for Blue Tide anymore, and they don't swim at the high school because we don't have it. What we would like to do is we would like to grab onto youth swimming and start to use that youth swimming program to develop a very successful high school program. This past year, we had 35 youth swimmers qualify for districts, which is pretty prestigious. And we actually had 3 qualify for the Missouri Valley Conference Championships, and those 3 did very well at the Missouri Valley Conference Championships. The big thing that this, I'm sure, will come down to is budget. And these numbers that I have, these actually come from girls swimming. These are the 2016, 15, or 16, 17 girls swimming budget numbers. Transportation cost is a large portion of that. Just like any athletic event, being out in western Kansas, anything that we do, we're going to have to travel in order to do it. So a lot of the times that we travel, we're going to have to travel to Hutch, Hayes, possibly Manhattan, those kinds of places, which tends to become a little expensive. Equipment budget, just like we would do with any other budget that has a girls program and a boys program, we would match the equipment budgets. Head coach cost and assistant coach costs, those are already fixed and set in the negotiated agreement based off the girls' swim teams. What I suggest, what I would recommend and ask from the board eventually if we're able to do this, is our athletic department would be able to pick up the equipment costs. The thing that we would have to ask help for would be the assistant coach, the head coach, and the transportation costs. Facilities, this is always a topic of conversation because we do not have a swimming pool at Garden City High School. And anytime you don't have facilities of your own, you're kind of at the mercy of the facilities that you use. We've worked with the YMCA since we started swimming. We've been swimming at the Garden City YMCA. The Garden City YMCA pool, I will tell you, is getting older. They have a heating system that's getting older. Their facilities are getting older. We have met with the CEO of Southwest Kansas YMCA, Chad Knight, and we've also met with the new director at the Garden City YMCA, Doug Dillingham, and they've both assured us that we are more than welcome. If we were to add boys swimming, we would be more than welcome to be accommodated by them. The thing that we've talked about the most, and I'm sure you guys may be aware, we've had heater issues at the YMCA where we've dealt with heat issues. We've had chlorine issues over the years. We've also had temperature issues, not just in the pool, but on the deck level. So those were all topics of conversation that we've had, and we've come to agreements, and we've actually been able to work with Mr. Knight and the YMCA well over the last swim season to deal with a lot of that stuff. The one thing that I will tell you, because the YMCA pool is getting older, and as a district we cannot afford a pool, in my eyes we can't afford to put in a pool and sustain the cost of a pool. If we were to ever lose the YMCA pool, the one thing I will tell you, even though I want this program, we will have to cut girls and boys swimming. It's not feasible for us to go and put in a pool that I see for us to be able to handle those costs. If that happens in the long term, for a long extended period of time, we'll have to cut girls and boys swimming. However, in the short term, if something were to malfunction, like a heater were to go out and we would be out of the pool for a week to 2 weeks, I have spoken with the Lincoln Recreation Facilities. They have an indoor pool, and they are more than happy to accommodate us for a short period of time. This is just a tentative schedule. In doing this, I've kind of started to research and put together a tentative schedule. If we were to add swimming either this year, this is somewhat how it would look. The thing about boys swimming, it's different time frame than girls swimming. Boys swimming is over the winter months. Girls swimming is over the spring months. And this would correlate to what you would think of wrestling and basketball and bowling season. It would start early in December. They would get in the pool in November and middle of November, and then start their competitions in early December. By this schedule and talking to these athletic directors, what I've tried to do here is try to put out a schedule that would be advantageous to us being a new swimming program. A lot of the meets that we would go to would be less competitive meets than what you would find our girls swimmers going to. Our girls swimming program is a well-established program. Boys swimming, we would kind of tear that back a little bit and let our boys have some time between meets and experience some success. So why I think we should add swimming, any activity that we talk about, activities are a huge part of our school, but one of the reasons activities are such a huge part of our school is just because of the positive effect that activities have on our school. Obviously you guys are well informed on the data as far as activities increasing daily attendance rates, activities increasing GPAs, activities having a positive effect on post-secondary education success, social emotional health, when you talk about building self-esteem, time management skills, and one of the big things that we concentrate at Garden City on is hopefully winning a 7th WAC Cup. Right now, with us being the only school without boys swimming, we get 0 points in the WAC Cup for boys swimming, and for us at Garden City, that's not acceptable. That's kind of my spiel. If you guys have any questions, I'd be more than happy to, and I'm sure you do, answer any of those questions.
I have a question for KJ. Got the money?
I'll go out the money tree.
Well,
Yeah.
I am, when I saw this on the agenda, I was super excited. I mean, I was a swimmer, and I know I have not pushed swimming with my boys because there was nowhere for them to go with it. I mean, you know, we keep pushing the football, the baseball, because we've got that at the high school. They have somewhere that they can go, but not with the swimming. And I always wondered, I'm all for girl power, I'm glad the girls took over, but as a mother of 2 boys, I always wondered why not. So, and I think, you know, it's good to have something in that interim. I've got 2 short kids, they're not gonna play basketball for you. And having something in that time frame in between football and baseball, besides wrestling and basketball, for those who don't necessarily like those, I think this is a great idea. I'm really, I know you don't want a motion now, so I'm not going to, but I really wish I could. This is so cool. I'm really excited.
That's one thing that we found in doing our research on that. One thing that we found is kind of like what Ms. Boris said. We've had a lot of interest. We have 19 kids that are basically saying, praying that we had boys swimming. We have another 7 or 8 that would say, yeah, we want to go out for swimming, which would, if that were to happen, we would be the second largest swim team already in the WAC behind Great Bend, and they're a powerhouse. But what we found is there's a lot of boys that are like what Ms. Boris said. They're not tied down to something else in the wintertime, and those are the boys that we're trying to connect with. It's not like there's a bunch of wrestlers that want to go swim, or basketball players that want to go swim. It's just like what Ms. Boris said.
And I imagine you have a lot up and coming.
Yeah, and that's what we're excited about. There's a lot of up and coming young boys that are swimming that, like has been said, they don't see a future in it, so they stop swimming. Unfortunately, they stop swimming, and it's a great, lifelong health thing to do. It's like running or anything else, just better on the joints.
And I have a question too, on the pool issue, which I don't want to sever the partnership from the Y as long as it's working, but rumors of a new sports facility coming to town. Has anyone else read about that with the ice rinks? And currently a pool isn't in the plans, but if the city's making deals to bring that in, I'm sure it's not city-owned, but will be some there.
Yeah.
Would there be an opportunity to request a pool to be included in there?
I think the opportunity exists, yes. This is the Starbond project
Yes.
that the city's talking about, and they haven't finalized exactly what all will be included in there. But that's a conversation that I've had with the city and letting them know that we are considering adding more swimming. So that won't be our decision to make, but certainly
But we could still bring that up?
we could lobby for that
Okay.
as that project is being put together, absolutely.
Hopefully Matt Allen is watching this. Or whenever it's up on YouTube.
Part of the push of that Star Bond requires that you can show that you're gonna bring people from out of state. But having a
But they
swim
also need
meet,
to support us local, I mean, it needs to,
having a swim meet.
That's huge.
right.
That's, not to get off on a tangent, I mean, that's what we're missing in Garden City. There's a huge opportunity for growth in youth sports here in Garden City. And like you said, a swimming pool would do that, or whatever, hockey rinks or lacrosse, whatever it may be. Those would do that. I actually have a meeting with Finney County Economic Development on Wednesday, and I'll mention it.
There are potential for diving,
Yes.
okay.
A diving
Just
well.
ask for it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we had diving team as well, right?
Yes.
More to come?
Yeah. Just thinking through though, you put some expenses up there and you talk about collaboration with the Y, which I think wonderful, it's great, they're a great partner. The facilities are aging, and as you said, there might be some issues with pool heater or maybe some other things. I guess I'm anticipating that our expense, this is an annual expense directly on the program, but we're gonna see other expenses. If we have a partnership and that partnership involves repairs, it seems reasonable that we're gonna have to think in those terms too.
Yeah, should I speak on this? We've already had those conversations with the Y. We already work with the Y in that capacity. The timing system at the Y is actually owned by Garden City High School. We work in the Y with a lot of things like that we incur those expenses through our budget at Garden City Athletic, in the Garden City Athletic department, through our equipment budget.
Was that timing system the old system back when we were working with them, or?
No, so the timing system that the touchpad timing system that we currently have, we actually raised the money and was donated to Garden City High School through raised money. And in return, what we do is we allow them to use those at their youth meets that they run at the YMCA. So it becomes a partnership. And we have other things like, we're gonna help put an outside shower facility, so before kids jump in the pool, they can go and pull the lever and wash themselves off, because one of the issues that we're seeing with the chlorine, one of the big problems is and it's a bigger problem with girls, sorry, but they have all the makeup and the stuff in their hair, and then they get in the pool and it causes imbalances in chlorine levels. And so we're gonna split costs with them already on stuff like that, and we've kind of had an agreement with those.
Mark, thank you. Even to continue the current partnership we have with the girls program, we're probably going to be asked to contribute to the cost of some of these repairs, and that'll be absorbed in our capital outlay plan. We're not going to be looking at huge costs, but as Drew mentioned, we've had a very long-standing partnership with the Y on a lot of facilities. They use our gymnasiums a lot during the school year, evenings and weekends, and right, and we have the opportunity to have these programs because of the pool that they have as a school.
Well, I appreciate the thinking process. Clearly, we already have that working relationship. It's just hearing all of the potential costs, which, in my opinion, are still not very big. When I was in high school, in another 6A high school, that was the only sport I did. So I'm glad that we're thinking about it.
Dr. Carlin, what is our timeline on needing to decide? So it could go through this year potentially, yes?
Right.
Yeah.
Drew tells me he needs to know by probably the last part of September in order to make this happen this year. So our plan was to bring this back to you on September 11th at our next board meeting and ask for a decision to be made at that point.
I just wanted to mention that, I believe when the high school was originally designed, there was a portion of that within the circle that was designated for some future expansion to the third pool. Is that correct?
Yeah, in the original design, right there, I guess it'd be probably to the east of the point.
Straight to the north of the gym.
Yeah, that area was kind of penciled in by the architects for a pool. Visits were made. The cost for that was about $7.5 million to put in a pool with a diving well. Our estimate is the recurring cost, if we had that, insurance, maintenance is about $300,000 a year. Certainly if that was something the community wanted to do, that could be done, but the only way that that could happen would be through some type of a bond project. So it's not completely out of the question, but it would certainly have to go in with all the other priorities. And Mark, kind of going to your question, as far as our partnership with the Y helping with the maintenance, our contribution to help with the maintenance will be orders of magnitude smaller than the $300,000 that it would cost us to operate a pool on our own.
However, a few years of success with this boys swimming team, and it'll be easier to raise money. So let's get it going.
And I just wanted to kind of point out that, that was a contemplated idea at the beginning of the high school, and while it's not feasible at this time, there may be some time in the future, especially if we're able to have those programs without it being able to be done.
I guess 2 points on that. I remember sitting next to Tom Blackburn during the talk while most of us were being elected to this board, and he said, we need to be able to compete with Johnson County. My joke to him was he was competing with Johnson County since I'm from Johnson County. They have 2 pools in their high schools. My school was one of the lucky ones to have it. Of course, we didn't have a stadium. There were 2 football stadiums, 2 swimming pools. So I guess if we want to be competitive, hopefully at some point, even though I know the money's expensive and we can't really afford it right now, we need to be able to compete with the eastern side of the state. The other thing that I think is really nice here, because, and I've seen this a lot, and I'm hoping to see it more in some other sports, like baseball, but the high school coaches working with the youth teams, and I really appreciate you encouraging that. And you've mentioned that here, Coach Ming working with the youth teams and getting them ready for high school. We're seeing that probably tomorrow night at the high school with our football teams. So I thank you for working with the coaches on doing that and encouraging that, because that's just going to make us that much better getting them ready. So,
Yeah,
thank you.
I appreciate it. That is a big focus for us and our coaches is moving into the youth and kind of giving back that direction because they are all kids that we're going to have. So we're doing
Since you brought up baseball, there is a hypothetical plan on the where to put a baseball diamond at our, or two, at our high school facility. So we're thinking prospectively when we develop this.
I mean, I could stay here all night and just give you my opinion.
I know,
but
we're in a good mood tonight, so
wants
keep it
that.
coming.
Yes, there's two, on the board, there's 2 baseball fields, 2 softball fields, a competitive soccer field, so yeah.
Let's keep dreaming.
And then if we're really dreaming, there'd be a nice indoor place to be able to hit softball and baseball and soccer in the winter.
Yeah. Let's get it up and
Comments?
running though first.
Further comments?
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys, thanks
Thank
for
you, sir.
listening.
So this will come back to us on September 11th. You ready to vote on that? So if you have concerns or questions or more comments, call Dr. Carlin, community people. This is your high school. If you have concerns, please call Dr. Carlin. Address those concerns. So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now the board open discussion. Something to discuss? Go ahead.
Okay, I work with Magic Soap Therapeutic Horsemanship, and we are starting our fall lessons. I want to brag a little bit on Real Men, Real Leaders, because they did bring some boys out a week ago Saturday, I think, a couple weeks ago, and did some cleanup that would have taken weeks for me to do. They helped me out and cleaned out the barn and got it all ready in a few hours. So I appreciate that partnership. We are nonprofit, completely volunteer-based. We do therapeutic horsemanship lessons with adults and kids with special needs. And then we also have our Pony Partners program. Sarah Brown, she's a teacher in the district, visits the schools and other community places, doing a literacy program with our miniature pony and our Shetland. And you guys have met the therapy dogs. They also work with us and partner with us to do visits. So we're starting our fall lessons. So if you know anyone that would like to volunteer and help out, or we're always taking donations to help provide those lessons for kids. Here's some brochures for kids.
Which could lead to an equestrian team.
There we go. They like indoor arenas too, by the way. Let's paint some crosswalks for
That
us.
one, I would.
Yeah.
That's right.
Gene?
Well, Dodge has a fishing lake, so I think we could.
Yeah, and we have a place for shooting and archery.
Can you swing it if you swim?
Depends on how deep it is. I did want to mention that I had attended the KSB Federal Education Issues Workshop on Friday, and it was pretty interesting. I've got some materials that I brought back. So if anybody is interested in that, it basically talked about the federal legislation that impacts campus and educational field. So I have some materials here.
Laura?
I was looking to Mika as well. I had 2 meetings. I had the mental health advisory committee meeting that I was appointed to recently. I'm still trying to figure that one out, but it's the people on that committee are just amazing. Kelly Robbins with Western Kansas Child Advocacy Center was elected the vice chair on my motion. They were hoping for somebody who was not a district employee or a board member to be the vice chair, but with some supporting agency, and I thought it was important to have Western Kansas represented, so she was there. I was a little nervous because for those of you who don't know her background, she is a former special agent with the KBI, and since I had to check with her first, I was afraid that some of those talents might come into play, but she was willing to accept that. So I'm really excited on what they're doing, and I'm hoping that we can get a lot of collaboration going on through the state. Their short-term goal is to try to come up with some legislation so things are more cohesive with what the legislature does with regard to mental health, because we have Jason's Law, which if I understand correctly is something with like suicide and bullying type of thing. And then there's Aaron's Law, which has not been passed yet, which deals with child sex abuse. And then there's all the bullying stuff, and everything's kind of haphazard. So they're trying to come together to present a cohesive set of ideas for the legislature to adopt. And then long-term, try to get everybody working together for the betterment of our kids. And then I also had the board meeting for KASB, and Dr. Watson spoke for about an hour at that. And one of the things, I mean, I know it's so exciting what he's wanting to see education do and redesigning it so that it's for every student and not just literally an assembly line. I mean, he literally equated it to Henry Ford because that's when everything kind of started happening assembly line style, and that we need to get away from that. And one of the things that I emailed Dr. Carlin on this too is he kind of challenged us. He's like, you know, we took the state test and we reduced it 60%. How about you guys do the same thing with your testing? Do you really need all of that testing? And he mentioned Ames Web and all the things that we're doing is to reduce your footprint. So that's something that, you know, he challenged us to do. So hopefully we can take that into consideration. But it was a really great thing on looking at the legislative agenda and what we're hoping to accomplish. And for the first time in a long time, it wasn't all about funding. So it's all looking at other things too. So I'm really excited, and hopefully we can do some great things this year. Like reduce testing.
Laura, did you guys talk about anything related to mental health on the, how to teach kids how to deal with normal stressors of life?
This was our very first meeting, so we actually literally spent an hour introducing ourselves.
Okay.
So this was for us to figure out why we're there, getting some information, and then the next few ones will be kind of moving along with that. That may be something more for after January, once we figured out the legislation. But this first one was just, this is why we're here, this is the research and that type of thing.
Well, congrats for being appointed to that.
Thank
That's
you.
really awesome. And I think Dana has talked about this quite a bit in the past too. You know, I think we don't teach our kids enough how to handle what they're feeling at the time, and then it grows and builds, and then you have these problems like bullying, etc. You know, you can't have yoga in every classroom every day, but when we're teaching life skills, we need to teach these kids how to deal when you're frustrated or when you're angry, and what to do to channel that and put it where it belongs instead of beating you up. Because a lot of kids are learning that, and they're on their own when they're doing it, you know, with their peers at school. So I think if we did more proactive at the front end of mental health, I think it would keep those bigger problems from developing.
Well, I think one of the other things that they were looking at too is definitely the community-based things too, because you know we have them for a few hours every day, but we don't have them in the evenings and we don't have them on the weekends. And you know, if we're not providing parents with the resources as well, then what good is that what we're doing? So
It's a complicated issue, and I'm really glad that you're focusing on it, and I'm glad that it's coming into the school district from the top down, because I think it's so important. I'm just happy with everyone else's comments.
I'll just comment off your comment. Well, last year we had Danny come and teach our young boys in our program, extension program, how to meditate, yoga, and just kind of calm out, you know. And it was really a cool class. I mean, even our board members that were there, and I was there. It's time just need a quiet time, you know, even if it's 2 or 3 minutes, just to relax in order to go to sleep. You know, so I agree with your comment on that. I'd like to share that last Thursday, Real Men, Real Leaders was invited to the Kansas Housing Conference to present our Reading Champion program that we started about 3 years ago. And we've been able to donate about 900 used books to all the Brown Library. And photograph and come present our program last Thursday on, to the world representatives. So we're not to do this. It's a great program. Hopefully we can get more schools to be a partner of that. Really champion product. It's honored to be here. Okay, Colin?
Well, Real Men, Real Leaders might need its own section because at the last chamber breakfast, the United Way pretty much had the program. Senator Roberts was in town, and the hit of the day, of the morning, was a young man who was a Real Men, Real Leaders program graduate, an 8th grader, Rodolfo, and he had the place rolling. He got a hug from the senator, a handshake, photograph, and described what he had learned from the Real Men, Real Leaders program, and made a phenomenal impact on the people at that breakfast. So, that was pretty awesome.
Thank you for that. Anything else? Okay. Our next board meeting will be here at the Education Center on September 11th at 6 p.m. And people, looks like we have an executive session that we need to go into, so entertain a motion.
Okay, Mr. President, I move that we go into executive session for 20 minutes pursuant to the non-elected personnel exception under COMA to discuss an individual employee's performance beginning, I guess, at 7:10. And the open meeting will resume the board meeting at 7:30.
A motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mark, second by Jennifer, we'll go into executive session, 20 minutes, further discussion.